Hello, this is Mrs. Avercamp, and today I'm going to have you go through the metric base units and prefixes. Now, you should have a note sheet, and as you watch the video, please make sure you add all the words that are highlighted in yellow. Now, I will give you extra details, so it's up to you if you'd like to add more. Basically, today we're going to talk about the metric system. The metric system is important because in science, all fields of science, whether it's medicine or engineering, use metric measurements. So basically, in the metric system, we have three base units, one for length, one for mass, and one for volume. And those base units can be adjusted depending on size. So if you have something large, for example, you might say it's a kilogram instead of a gram. One of the nice things about the metric system is it's based on units of 10. So to change one unit like gram to a kilogram is actually pretty easy compared to in the English system, for example, where you have to memorize how many ounces are in a pound and you have to do some more memorization of just random numbers. So let's begin. Length is one of the first base units, and it's very simply the distance between points. So in the typical English units, we measure distances in inches, feet, yards, and miles. And over your lifetime, you've had to memorize quite a few conversions. Like there's 12 inches in a foot, there's 3 feet in a yard. In the metric system, it's much easier though. We basically have the meter as the base unit, and we just simply adjust the prefix we add to it if we want it to be bigger or smaller. So if I'm measuring the tip of my pencil, for example, I'm going to probably measure in millimeters or centimeters. If I'm measuring something large, such as the distance to another city, I'm probably going to use the prefix kilo, a kilometer. Now, one of the things we're going to work on in this unit is being able to convert an English to a metric unit. So if you ever travel abroad, you're going to see metric numbers, and you're going to have a tool to help you be able to compare which one is bigger or how much is that. One of the ones we're going to get used to, now you don't have to memorize these, but you actually will become very familiar with these by the time the school year ends. 1 kilometer, for example, is 0.6 of a mile. So if you're a runner, for example, if you run a 10K race, a 10-kilometer race, you're actually running 6 miles. Now, the second base unit we use in the metric system is a unit to measure mass. Mass is simply the amount of matter in an object, so please add that word to your note sheet. And mass is going to simply be measured with a balance or a scale. In the typical English units, for example, you see mass expressed in ounces or pounds. So when you were born, you might have been, for example, I was like 6 pounds, 7 ounces. The English or the metric system, on the other hand, the base unit is the gram. And again, if you want it to be bigger, you might say a kilogram. If you want it to be a small quantity, like how much medicine is in your prescription, you might see it's expressed in milligrams. So gram is basically the unit, and we add prefixes if we wanted a big or small quantity. One of the conversions we're going to get used to is a kilogram compared to a pound. In physics, for example, when we start using some of the laws of motion equations, we're going to always have to change pounds to kilograms. And the conversion is 1 kilogram equals 2.2 pounds. The third base unit is volume. Volume measures the amount of space an object takes up. It's a three-dimensional measurement. We'll review just a little bit in this unit, like you have to take length times width times height to figure out how much space an object takes up. Or you might do water displacement if it's an object where you can't measure a length, a width, and a height. Now, the typical unit you see volume expressed in the English system is the gallon. So we buy gas by the gallon, but the metric base unit, on the other hand, is the liter. If you go to Canada, you don't buy gas by the gallon, you're going to buy it by the liter. So one conversion we're going to kind of get used to is 1 gallon equals 3.78 liters. And we're going to learn something a little bit later that's going to help us learn how to kind of convert one unit to another. Now, lastly, the base units are the meter, the liter, the gram. We have a 7-word phrase we're going to get used to that's going to help us get used to the prefixes, their sizes, and their order, because that's really important because of the fact that the metric system is based on units of 10. So there's 7 letters we're going to get you to know, and in the first box, I'd like you to write this little 7-word phrase. The K stands for king. The H stands for Henry. Now, one of the things you should have done before you watched this video is you should have looked through a short PowerPoint that told you the story about King Henry. So basically the story is King Henry died unexpectedly drinking chocolate milk. So the D stands for died, the B unexpectedly. I'll explain that one. That one's kind of confusing. D is drinking, C is chocolate, and M is milk. So let me give you a second to write down your 7 words that are going to be attached to those 7 letters. Now, each word of that 7-word phrase is actually going to be part of the prefix chart. The K in king simply stands for the prefix kilo. You probably are okay with the prefix kilo. You've probably heard it before, a kilogram, kiloliter, or a kilometer. And kilo simply has a value of 1,000. So if I have a kilometer, a kilometer, that's 1,000 meters. If I have a kilogram, that's 1,000 grams. If I have a kiloliter, that's 1,000 liters. So in the metric system, we put a prefix on it, and that helps us adjust the size. Now, the H in Henry stands for the prefix hecto. Hecto has the numerical value of 100. So a hectogram is 100 grams. A hectometer is 100 meters. A hectoliter is 100 liters. Now, one of the things you're going to notice is they're based on 10. So here's 1,000, here's 100. Guess what the D is going to be worth? It's going to be worth 10. So the prefix that means 10 in the metric system is deca. Now, please note it can be spelled with a C or a K. And one of the things I wish I would have added is deca is abbreviated with 2 letters. It's a D and an A. Now, you're going to notice there's another prefix that begins with the D, so there has to be some way to tell the difference. So this prefix is abbreviated with a D and a little a. So if I have a decameter, that means I have 10 meters. If I have a decagram, that means I have 10 grams. Now, the B stands for the base units. So the base units, again, represent the value of 1. If I don't want to adjust the size of a base unit, I don't put a prefix on it. So the 3 base units, again, are the meter, the liter, the gram. If I have any of those, that just means I have 1 of them. And again, the idea is I attach a prefix if I want to make it a big quantity or a smaller quantity. Now, if you go to the right of the base unit, we're now going to talk about numbers less than 1. So the little d stands for the prefix deci. Deci, again, don't confuse with deca. Deci is just abbreviated with 1 letter, a D. And the value of deci is simply 1/10, 1 over 10 as a fraction, or 0.1. So if I have a decimeter, I have 1/10 of a meter. If I have a decigram, I have 1/10 of a gram. Now the C prefix is one you're probably very comfortable with. C stands for centa, and centa has a numerical value of 1 over 100, or if you're going to write it as a fraction, 0.01. So a centimeter is 1/100th of a meter. It would take 100 centimeters to equal 1 meter. A centigram is 1/100th of a gram, and so on. Now the last prefix, the M in milk, stands for the prefix milli, and milli represents the value of 1 over 1,000, or as a decimal, 0.001. So a milligram is 1,000th of a gram. A millimeter is 1,000th of a meter, and it would take 1,000 millimeters to fill up one simple meter stick, 1 meter. Now lastly, there are prefixes that are bigger and smaller than the kilo and the milli, but basically in science we're going to be working always within this range of 6 prefixes. So these are the 6 we're going to spend some time on. That's all for today. If you take a look on the back of your note sheet, there's a quick independent practice sheet that's going to give you a chance to kind of look over this and get a little practice getting used to this chart. Thank you.